Princess Hana stood on the bridge of her warship, watching the planet below through the massive windows. Small fires dotted the surface where human cities once stood. She felt nothing but cold satisfaction. This was justice. This was what the humans deserved for spreading across the galaxy like a disease. Her crystalline skin glowed with soft blue light, a sign of her royal blood. The markings along her arms pulsed gently, reflecting her calm mood. Around her, the crew worked at their stations, monitoring weapons and shields. They were efficient, they were loyal, they were everything humans could never be. Hana was the youngest daughter of Empress Nari, ruler of the Velrian Empire. For 3,000 years, her people had controlled this sector of space. They had built great cities on 100 worlds. They had created art and music that could make stars weep. They were ancient. They were civilized. And then the humans came. The humans had barely mastered space travel when they started claiming planets. They built their ugly metal colonies on worlds that should have remained pure. They dug into sacred ground and pulled out resources with no respect for the land. They multiplied like insects, filling space with their noise and pollution. The Velrian Empire had offered them a place in the Galactic Order. The Empire had been generous. The humans only needed to give up half their colonies and accept Velrian guidance. The humans had refused. They had actually refused. Such arrogance from a species that had only been in space for 200 years. So the Empire had no choice but to teach them their place. The war had begun 5 years ago, and Hana had joined the fleet 3 years past. After her older brother was killed in battle, she touched the memorial crystal hanging from her neck. Inside the crystal was a single drop of her brother's blood, preserved forever. He had been kind and gentle, unsuited for war, but he had done his duty. And a human weapon had torn his ship apart, killing everyone aboard. Hana had vowed that day to make the humans pay for every Velrian life they took. Now she commanded the Third Fleet, 20 warships strong. She was only 24 years old, but she had proven herself in battle after battle. She won through strategy and ruthlessness. She never hesitated. She never showed mercy. Mercy was for beings who deserved it, and humans deserved nothing. A voice interrupted her thoughts. "Princess, we have completed the bombardment of Sector 7. All military targets have been destroyed." Hana nodded. "Prepare to move to the next target zone. The humans have a supply depot in Sector 9. I want it reduced to ash within the hour." "Yes, Princess." She watched the tactical display, showing the positions of her ships and the remaining human forces on the planet. The colony world of Arcturus 7 had been resisting for 3 weeks. Most of the colonists had evacuated, but a stubborn group of human soldiers remained, fighting for every meter of ground. It was pointless. The Empire would take this world just as it had taken dozens of others. Something felt wrong. Hana's instincts, sharpened by 3 years of combat, suddenly screamed, "Danger!" She turned to her tactical officer. "Scan for anomalies. Check for unusual energy signatures." The officer's hands flew across his console. His eyes widened. "Princess, I'm detecting a massive power surge from the surface. It's coming from the human defensive lines. Evasive action. All ships. Scatter formation now." But it was too late. A beam of pure white energy shot up from the planet's surface, moving faster than anything Hana had ever seen. It struck her flagship directly, bypassing the shields as if they weren't there. The ship shuddered violently. Lights flickered and died. The artificial gravity failed for 3 seconds, sending crew members floating before slamming back on. "Damage report." Hana grabbed her command chair as the ship tilted. "Main engines offline, secondary power failing. Hull breach on decks 5 through 9. The officer's voice was panicked. "We're caught in the planet's gravity well. We're going down." The bridge erupted in chaos. Crew members shouted orders and warnings. Alarms blared from every station. Through the windows, Hana could see the planet growing larger. They were falling. Her mighty flagship, the Eternal Dawn, was falling like a stone. She forced herself to stay calm. A commander who panicked was worse than useless. "All hands! Evacuate to escape pods. Abandon ship." "That is an order, Princess. You must evacuate," her second officer said, appearing at her side with an emergency pack. "I will leave last. Make sure the crew gets out, Princess. Please." "That is an order, Commander." He hesitated, then saluted, and ran to help coordinate the evacuation. Hana strapped herself into her chair and tried to steer the falling ship away from populated areas. If she was going to die, she would at least try to avoid killing her own soldiers on the ground. The ship fell through the atmosphere, heating up as friction tore at the hull. Escape pods shot away in all directions like seeds from a dying flower. Hana counted them, making sure her crew escaped. 50 pods, 60, 70. Good. Most of them would make it. The ground rushed up to meet her. Hana closed her eyes and thought of her mother, her dead brother, her home world that she would never see again. But she thought of all the humans she had killed and felt no regret. This was war. This was fate. The ship hit the ground with the force of a meteor. Metal screamed. The world went black. When Hana opened her eyes, everything hurt. She was lying in the wreckage of the bridge, pinned under a fallen beam. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to breathe. Fires burned all around her. She could hear the distant sound of weapons fire. The battle was still raging nearby. With effort, she pushed the beam off her body. Her left arm was broken. Burns covered her side. But she was alive. She was alive, and she was not going to die here, not on this human world, not like this. Hana pulled herself through the wreckage, looking for her guards. She found them dead, crushed by falling debris. She took a plasma blade from one of their bodies and a sidearm from another. Then she climbed through a crack in the hull and emerged into the smoke-filled air of Arcturus 7. The ship had carved a trench half a kilometer long across the landscape. In the distance, she could see the flashes of battle, human and Velrian forces fighting over this worthless rock. She needed to reach her own lines, signal for rescue, but first, she needed to survive. Hana moved through the burning wreckage like a ghost. Every step sent through her broken arm, but she forced herself forward. Survival was all that mattered now. She was a princess of the Velrian Empire. She would not die crawling through mud on a human world. The smoke cleared enough for her to see the landscape. Rocky hills rose in the distance. The crashed ship had landed in a valley between human and Velrian positions. She could see weapon fire lighting up the sky in both directions. This was the worst possible place to be. Trapped between two armies, she heard voices, human voices, harsh and crude. Speaking their simple language, Hana pressed herself against a piece of twisted metal and watched. 3 human soldiers moved through the wreckage, searching for survivors or salvage. They wore armored suits that made them look like insects. Their weapons were primitive but effective. One of them pointed at her hiding spot. "Check over there." They were coming closer. Hana gripped her plasma blade tighter. She was injured and outnumbered, but she would not surrender. Death before dishonor. That was the Velrian way. The first soldier rounded the corner. Hana struck without hesitation. The plasma blade cut through his armor like paper. He fell without a sound. The second soldier raised his weapon, but she was already moving. Years of combat training guided her body. She spun low, slashing at his legs. He screamed and fell. The third soldier fired. The shot hit her in the shoulder, spinning her around. She fell hard, her blade flying from her grip. Pain exploded through her body. The soldier approached carefully, weapon aimed at her head. "Don't move," he said in crude Velrian. "Hands where I can see them." Hana laughed, tasting blood. "Just kill me, human. I will tell you nothing." I said, "Don't move." More soldiers appeared. 4, then 6, then 10. They surrounded her, weapons raised. Hana tried to stand, to fight, but her body wouldn't obey. She had lost too much blood. Everything was getting dark around the edges. A new voice cut through the confusion. "Lower your weapons. She's injured and unarmed. Someone call for a medic." "Sir, she just killed Davis and Martinez, and now she's our prisoner. We follow the rules of war, soldier. That's what separates us from them. Get me a medic now." Hana's vision blurred. She saw a human face looking down at her. Young, maybe 30 years old, with dark eyes and a concerned expression. This was the enemy. This was what she hated. But those eyes didn't look cruel. They looked worried. For her, that made no sense. "Stay with me," the human said. "You're going to be okay, I promise." Then everything went black. When Hana woke, she was lying on a bed in a clean white room. Bandages covered her shoulder and arm. Medical equipment beeped softly nearby. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory flooded back. The crash, the fight, the humans. She tried to sit up, but pain stopped her. A human appeared beside her immediately. He wore medical insignia on his uniform. The same man from before with the kind eyes. "Easy," he said in perfect Velrian. "You're safe." "Well, as safe as any of us are in a war zone." "Where am I?" Hana's voice was rough. Forward Operating Base Sanctuary. The Terran Defense Corps runs this facility. I'm Junho, combat medic. I patched up your wounds. Why? The question came out before she could stop it. Why? 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 Junho looked surprised. Why did I treat your wounds? Because you were injured. That's what medics do. I killed 2 of your soldiers. Yes, you did. His expression became sad. And we've killed thousands of yours. War is terrible that way. But you were wounded and captured. The fighting was over. You deserved medical care. Hana stared at him, trying to understand. This made no sense. Humans were supposed to be barbaric. They were supposed to torture prisoners or kill them outright. But this human had saved her life, and seemed genuinely concerned about her welfare. You're confused, Junho said gently. I understand. Rest now. You lost a lot of blood. I want to speak to your commander. He'll come when you're stronger. For now, just rest. Junho left. Hana lay back and stared at the ceiling. Her mind raced with questions. Where was her crew? Had they escaped? Did her mother know she was alive? And why had these humans saved her instead of letting her die? 3 days passed. Junho visited regularly, changing her bandages and bringing her food. He never asked questions about military secrets. He just talked about simple things, the weather, the food in the base cafeteria, a joke one of the other soldiers had told. It was strange and uncomfortable. Other humans came too. They stared at her through the transparent wall of her room, pointing and whispering. Some looked angry, some looked curious. One woman spat at the wall and called her a murderer. Junho had gently led that woman away. On the 4th day, a human officer entered her room. He was older, maybe 50, with gray in his hair and scars on his face. His uniform marked him as a captain. Princess Hana, he said formally. I am Captain Daejo, commander of this facility. Are you being treated well? Well enough, Hana admitted. What do you want from me? Information. Eventually. But not today. You're still recovering. He paused. I want you to know that you will not be tortured or abused while in our custody. We follow the Galactic Convention on Prisoners of War. The Velrian Empire does not recognize human laws. Perhaps not, but we recognize our own. You are a prisoner, yes, but you are also a sentient being, deserving of basic dignity. That is our way. After he left, Hana felt more confused than ever. These humans spoke of dignity and honor. They followed rules even when their enemy did not. This contradicted everything she had been taught. Humans were supposed to be primitive and savage, but these humans seemed more civilized than many Velrians she knew. On the 5th day, Junho brought her a device that could access entertainment files. I thought you might be bored, he explained. These are some human books and music. Maybe it will help pass the time. Lev, maybe it will. Level R. Levy R. Maybe it will help pass the time. Why are you being kind to me? Hana asked suddenly. I would have killed you if I had the chance. Junho was quiet for a moment. I know, but I became a medic because I believe every life has value. Even in war. Especially in war. If I stop believing that, then what are we even fighting for? He left her with the device. Hana spent hours looking through the human files. Stories about love and loss. Music that spoke of hope and sorrow. Art that captured beauty and simple things. These were not the works of savages. These were the creations of beings who felt deeply, who thought about meaning and purpose. Her brother's memorial crystal hung around her neck. The humans had let her keep it. Another small kindness that she did not understand. Hana looked out the window of her room. She could see human soldiers training in the yard below. They laughed together, helped each other, showed concern for one another. They were nothing like the monsters she had imagined. For the first time since the war began, Princess Hana felt a small crack form in the wall of her hatred. It was tiny, barely noticeable, but it was there, and it scared her, more than any battle ever had. The alarm shattered the quiet morning. Had jerked awake in her cell, as red lights flashed throughout the facility. The sound was different from the usual battle alerts. This was something worse, something urgent. Junho appeared at her door, his face tense. We're under attack. Not Vel reinforces. Reavers, mercenaries who prey on both sides. Why are you telling me this? Because they're breaking through our defenses. They don't take prisoners. They kill everyone they find. He paused, his hand hovering over the door controls. I'm going to do something that might get me court-martialed, but I can't leave you here to die in a cage. The energy barrier flickered off. Hana stood slowly, suspicious. This is a trick. No trick. Here. He held out her plasma blade. I kept this safe for you. If we're going to survive the next hour, we need to work together. Explosions rocked the base. Screams echoed down the hallways. The sound of gunfire grew closer. Hana took the blade, her fingers closing around the familiar grip. She could kill this human right now. He was trusting her completely. It would be so easy, but something stopped her. Maybe it was his constant kindness over the past weeks. Maybe it was the fear in his eyes that he was trying so hard to hide. Or maybe it was simply that the enemy of her enemy was for this moment her ally. Where do we go? She asked. Relief flooded Junho's face. Evacuation point is on the north side. We need to get through the main facility. Stay close to me. See? They ran through corridors filled with smoke and chaos. Bodies lay everywhere. Human soldiers cut down as they tried to mount a defense. The Reavers were efficient and brutal. They wore no uniforms, no insignia, just mismatched armor, covered in blood and trophies taken from their victims. Junho stopped at a junction, checking around the corner. 3 Reavers were executing wounded soldiers in a medical bay. Hana felt rage burn through her. These were not warriors, these were butchers. We need to go around, Junho whispered. No. Hana moved before he could stop her. The plasma blade hummed to life. She was a princess of the Velrian Empire, trained by the best warriors in the galaxy. These criminals didn't stand a chance. The first Reaver died before he knew she was there. The second managed to raise his weapon, but she was already inside his guard, blades sliding between armor plates. The third was smarter. He fired, forcing her to dodge. But then Junho was there, his sidearm barking twice. The Reaver fell. They stared at each other. They had just fought side by side, covering each other's weaknesses, human and Velrian, working as a team. It felt strange. It felt right. Thank you, Junho said. We are not friends, Hana replied quickly. Of course. But they both knew something had changed. They found more survivors as they moved deeper into the base. A pilot named Minho, with a badly burned leg. A young soldier called Juo, who couldn't have been more than 20, tears streaking his face as he stared at his dead squadmates. Captain Dejo appeared, directing the retreat, his uniform torn and bloody. The evacuation shuttles are compromised, Dejo reported grimly. The Reavers hit them first. We have 1 transport left, but it won't carry everyone. Then we fight our way to it and make multiple trips, Junho said. There's no time. They're bringing up heavy weapons. This whole base will be rubble in 30 minutes. There must be another way out. Hana spoke up. There is my escape pod from my ship. It crashed 3 kilometers north of here. If it's still functional, it could carry 15 people. Everyone stared at her. Captain Dejo frowned. Why would you help us? Because those animals kill both our kinds without mercy. Today we are both their prey. Today we survive together or die separately. Dejo studied her for a long moment, then he nodded. Lead the way, princess. They fought through the base, gathering more survivors. 23 humans in total, including 4 wounded who had to be carried. Hana led them through service tunnels she had memorized from studying the base layout during her captivity. The Reavers were focused on the main corridors, looting and killing. They didn't expect anyone to escape through the maintenance systems. They emerged outside the base as the first building exploded behind them. Mullet, Hana looked back and saw Reavers swarming through the ruins like insects. In the distance, more of their ships were landing. This wasn't just a raid. It was an invasion. The trek to the crash site took 2 hours. They had to avoid Reaver patrols and navigate rough terrain. Minho's leg wound reopened, leaving a trail of blood. Ju never stopped shaking, but they kept moving. Halfway there, they encountered something worse. A group of Velrian soldiers, survivors from Hana's fleet. They were setting up an ambush position, preparing to attack the next human patrol that came through. The lead Velrian officer spotted them. His eyes widened when he saw Hana among the humans. Princess, you're alive. We've been searching for you. Come quickly. We'll get you away from these animals. Hana stepped forward, placing herself between the Velrians and the humans. These animals saved my life. They treated my wounds when they could have let me die. They're holding you hostage. We understand. It's all right now. You're safe. I am not a hostage. I am choosing to travel with them. The officer's expression turned cold. You travel willingly with humans. That is treason, princess. That is survival. And more importantly, it is right. These reavers attack both our kinds. We should be fighting them together, not each other. The Empress would be ashamed of you. Those words stung. But Hana stood firm. Perhaps. But I am ashamed of what our empire has become. We started this war with lies and aggression. I have seen the truth now. I will not continue fighting for a lie. The Velrian soldiers raised their weapons. For a terrible moment, Hana thought they would fire. Then, Captain Dejo stepped forward. Let us pass. We don't want to fight you. We just want to survive and get these people to safety. Your princess has shown more courage and honor than any warrior I've ever known. Don't prove her wrong about your people. The standoff lasted an eternity. Finally, the Velrian officer lowered his weapon. Go, but know this, princess. If we meet again, you will be considered an enemy of the Empire. Your name will be struck from the records. You will be nothing. Then I will be nothing, Hana said quietly. But I will be nothing. With my honor. Intact. They reached the crash site as the sun began to set. Hana's escape pod was partially buried in dirt, but intact. The systems powered up when she entered her command codes. There was room for everyone, though it would be cramped as they loaded the wounded aboard. Junho stood beside Hana. That was incredibly brave. What you did back there, you gave up everything for us. I gave up lies and hate. What I found was worth more than a crown. What did you find? Hana looked at the humans helping each other into the pod. Minho supporting Juyu. Captain Dejo making sure the wounded were comfortable. These beings her mother had called monsters. These beings who showed more compassion than most Velrians she knew. I found the truth, she said simply. The escape pod lifted off, leaving the war zone behind. But Hana knew the hardest battles were yet to come. The escape pod wasn't meant for long journeys. It was designed for short hops to safety. Not traveling 300 kilometers through hostile territory to reach the human extraction point, but it was all they had, and fuel was running low after the first day. Captain Dejo made the decision to land in a remote valley and continue on foot. It was dangerous, but staying in the air would drain their power completely. They needed to save enough fuel for an emergency escape if necessary. The group made camp in a cave system that Minho's scanners showed was empty. They posted guards and rationed their limited supplies. 23 humans and 1 Velrian, all exhausted, all scared, all wondering if they would live to see another sunrise. Hana sat apart from the others at first, old habits dying hard, but Ju approached her nervously, carrying a ration pack. Princess, Hana, is it okay to call you Hana? The young soldier stumbled over his words. I wanted to say thank you for helping us, for giving up your people. I did not give up my people, Hana said quietly. I gave up leaders who lied to them. There is a difference. Ju sat down nearby. Not quite close, but not far either. Can I ask you something? Why do your people hate us so much? What did we do that was so terrible? It was a good question. An important question. Hana realized she had never truly thought about it before. She had simply accepted what she was told. We were taught that humans are aggressive, that you take what is not yours, that you have no respect for the old ways, for tradition, for the sanctity of the worlds you colonize. She paused. But I think the real reason is fear. Fear of us. Yes, the Velrian Empire has existed for 3,000 years. We have always been the dominant power in this region. Then humans arrived, and spread faster than any species we had ever seen. In 200 years, you colonized more worlds than we did in 1,000. That frightened the Empress and her advisors, so they decided to stop you before you became too powerful to control. So they started a war. They demanded you give up half your colonies and submit to our rule. When you refused, they called it aggression and attacked. Hana looked at her hands. I believed the Empire's story. I wanted to believe it after my brother died. It was easier to hate than to question. Other soldiers gathered around their fire. Minho limped over, his bandaged legs still causing him pain. Captain Dejo joined them too. They listened as Hana spoke about her childhood, about the propaganda she was raised on, about the moment she first started doubting. It was Junho, she admitted. He treated me with kindness when he should have left me to die. That broke something in my understanding of humans. One small act of mercy, and the entire story I believed started to crack. Junho, who was checking on the wounded nearby, looked up. Their eyes met across the cave. He smiled slightly, then returned to his work. Tell us about Ju asked. What's your home world like? So Hana told them. She described the crystal cities that glowed with inner light, the singing forests where the trees produced natural music, the great luck. The fire crackled softly inside the cave, casting dancing shadows across the stone walls. For the first time in days, there was no gunfire, no explosions, no screams, only silence, a rare gift in a galaxy consumed by war. Princess Hana sat near the flames, her fingers wrapped around a warm metal cup. Around her, the humans shared stories, not as soldiers, not as enemies, but as people. For years she had commanded fleets and conquered worlds. Yet somehow, this simple conversation felt more important than any victory she had ever won. She spoke quietly about Velria, about crystal cities that glowed beneath twin moons, about floating libraries that contained the collected wisdom of hundreds of civilizations, about her childhood, her family, the crushing weight of being born a princess in an empire that expected perfection. The humans listened without judgment, without hatred, without fear. Then they shared their own stories, and Hana discovered that pain sounded the same in every language. Minho stared into the fire before speaking. His voice trembled. My family owned a farm on Terra Nova. A faint smile appeared. We grew crops beneath 3 suns. It wasn't much, but it was home. The smile vanished. Then came the silence. The painful kind. The Velrian fleet arrived at dawn. Nobody interrupted him. They were gone by sunset. His voice cracked. My parents, my brother, my little sister. His eyes glistened. The farm, the town, everything. The cave grew deathly quiet. Hana felt a knife twist inside her chest. I'm sorry. The words felt weak, meaningless. But they were all she had. I'm so sorry. She lowered her head. I helped destroy worlds like yours. Her voice shook. I believed I was bringing order. I believed I was serving justice. Minho looked at her for a long moment. Pain still lived in his eyes. Perhaps it always would, but hatred wasn't there anymore. You didn't know. The words surprised her. You were lied to. He swallowed hard. Just like we were. They told us Velrians were monsters. His gaze softened. But you've shown us that isn't true. For the first time since the war began, Hana felt tears threatening to form. Later, Zhu shared his dream. Before the war, he had studied childhood education. He wanted to become a teacher. Not a soldier, not a fighter, a teacher. I was going to open a school on one of the frontier colonies. He laughed bitterly. Now I'd settle for surviving long enough to see my family again. The laughter died quickly. No one knew what to say. Because everyone understood, war had stolen futures from all of them. Captain Dejo rarely spoke about himself. The veteran officer carried his emotions behind walls thicker than fortress steel. But that night, even he opened up. I have a daughter. The words came quietly. She's your age, Zhu age. His eyes reflected the flames. She's studying medicine back on Earth. He paused. I fight so she can live in a universe where she never has to. No one spoke after that. Some truths deserved silence. Hours later, most of the group had fallen asleep. Only the guards remained awake. And 2 figures sitting beside a dying fire. Junho and Hana. The cave felt strangely peaceful, almost normal. As if war existed somewhere very far away. Junho glanced at her. Can't sleep? Hana smiled sadly. Too many thoughts. She looked around at the sleeping humans. At Minho. At Juo. At Captain Dejo. People she would once have called enemies. I killed people like them. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I destroyed homes like Minho's. She stared into the embers. I did terrible things because I believed I was righteous. Junho remained quiet for a moment, then shook his head. You were a soldier fighting in a war you believed was just. He met her eyes. That's different from people who enjoy cruelty. Is it? Her voice cracked. The dead don't care why they died. For a long moment neither spoke. Then Junho looked toward the cave entrance. When my sister died during the first attacks. His jaw tightened. I wanted revenge. The words surprised her. I trained as a soldier. His eyes darkened with old memories. I wanted to kill as many Velrians as possible. What changed? Junho smiled faintly. A child. Hana blinked. A child? He nodded. We raided a Velrian military outpost. His gaze drifted into the past. There were families there. Officers. Civilians. I found a little girl hiding inside a closet. His smile became sad. She couldn't have been older than 6. Hana listened carefully. She was terrified. Junho swallowed. And suddenly I realized she looked exactly like my sister. The cave seemed to grow quieter. Same eyes. Same fear. Same innocence. His voice softened. That's when I understood something. What? Your people weren't monsters? He looked directly at her. You were just people. People whose leaders made terrible choices. Atna stared at him. Is that why you became a medic? Junho nodded. If I couldn't save my sister. A gentle smile appeared. Maybe I could save someone else's. He paused. Human. Velrian. It didn't matter. Then he added quietly. Especially Velrians. Hana felt warmth spread through her chest. A feeling she hadn't experienced in a very long time. Hope. This human had every reason to hate her species. Every reason to seek revenge. Yet he chose compassion, healing, mercy. Everything her people claimed humanity lacked. You are remarkable, Junho. Her voice was sincere. Your species is fortunate to have you. Junho laughed softly. I'm just one medic. Then his expression turned thoughtful. There are millions of humans who want peace. He looked at her. And I suspect there are millions of Velrians who want the same. Hana nodded slowly. But our voices are drowned out by those who profit from war. She touched the crystal pendant hanging around her neck. Her brother's memorial crystal. A fragment of the person she had loved most. I wish my brother could have met you. Junho smiled. He sounds important. He was. Her eyes softened. He always said violence is the refuge of weak minds. Junho chuckled. Then he was wiser than most politicians. She laughed for the first time in months. A real laugh. Warm. Natural. Beautiful. And suddenly she became aware of how close they were sitting. The realization made her heartbeat quicken. Junho. Her voice grew quiet. What happens when we reach the extraction point? He hesitated. The truth wasn't pleasant. You'll probably become a prisoner again. Hana nodded. She had expected that. You're valuable. Intelligence. Negotiations. Political leverage. He sighed. But I'll make sure they treat you fairly. She looked at him. You cannot promise that. You're only one medic. Junho grinned. Then I'll become the loudest medic in the entire military. Despite herself, Hana smiled. Then Junho's expression grew serious. Gentle. Sincere. You're not alone anymore. The words struck deeper than any weapon. You have allies now. He paused. Friends. The word hung between them. Friends. A human. And a Velrian princess. In the middle of a war that had killed billions, it should have been impossible. Yet somehow, it felt completely natural. Friends, Hana whispered, and discovered she liked the sound of it. Very much. For a while they sat together in silence, watching the fire fade into glowing embers. Around them, humans and one Velrian slept peacefully beneath the same roof, trusting one another, protecting one another, surviving together. For the first time since her ship crashed, Hana felt something stronger than grief, stronger than guilt, stronger than fear. Hope. Small, fragile, but real. Perhaps the war could end. Perhaps both species could find peace. Perhaps the future didn't have to be written in blood. And perhaps, just perhaps, a Velrian princess and a human medic could become the spark that changed the galaxy. The extraction point was supposed to be safe. Instead, it looked like the beginning of another disaster. As Hana's group reached the crest of the final ridge, they froze. Below them stretched a battlefield. Human forces occupied the northern heights. Velrian troops controlled the southern approaches. Heavy weapons lined both ridges. Artillery positions glowed beneath camouflage nets. Combat drones circled overhead like hungry predators. And trapped directly between them sat the extraction platform. The very place meant to save them. Captain Dejo slowly lowered his scope. His expression darkened. "This is bad." "How bad?" Minho asked. "Both sides are dug in." Dejo exhaled slowly. "If we move through the valley, we'll be caught in the crossfire." "We have to try," Minho said. But Hana was already studying the battlefield. Years of command revealed patterns invisible to others. Weak points. Blind spots. Moments of opportunity. Then her eyes found something. There. She pointed toward a communications tower rising from a rocky hill. "If we reach that array, we can contact both armies." Junho frowned. "And tell them what?" Hana's eyes hardened with determination. "The truth." Everyone stared at her. "We show them that humans and Velrians can survive together." Her voice grew stronger. "That cooperation is possible." Captain Dejo shook his head. "They'll think it's a trap." "Perhaps." Hana nodded. "But if we remain silent, this war continues." She looked at every face around her. "I did not abandon everything I believed in simply to watch more worlds burn." For a brief moment, nobody argued, because deep down, they knew she was right. Then suddenly, a shadow swept across the valley. Everyone looked up. A sleek Velrian transport ship burst through the clouds. Its shields shimmered as human weapons opened fire. Blue energy blasts slammed against the barrier. The transport didn't even slow down. And Hana felt her blood run cold. Because she recognized that ship. She knew exactly who had come for her. It landed in no man's land, right in the center of the battlefield. A squad of elite royal guards emerged wearing the black armor of the Empress's personal troops. And then she appeared, Empress Nari herself, Hana's mother, stepping out of the transport with regal grace. Her voice boomed across the valley, amplified by the ship's speakers. "I am here for my daughter. Send out Princess Hana, and I will withdraw my forces. Refuse, and I will burn this entire valley to ash." The human commander, Colonel Seong, appeared on the northern ridge. His voice came through loudspeakers as well. "Princess Hana is a prisoner of war. She will be treated according to the Galactic Convention. She is not yours to claim. Well, she will be treated accord. She will be treated accord. She will be treated accord. She will be treated according to the Galactic Convention. She is not yours to claim. She is my daughter, and a princess of the Empire. I will not debate with primitives. You have 1 hour to comply." 2. Hana felt ice in her stomach. Her mother was here. The most powerful woman in the Velrian Empire had come personally to retrieve her. Part of her wanted to run down the hill to fall into her mother's arms, to go home to the world she knew. But that world was built on lies. "I have to go down there," Hana said. "That's suicide," Junho protested. "Both sides will tear you apart trying to claim you. Not if I go willingly. Not if I speak the truth where everyone can hear it." She looked at the humans who had become her unlikely companions. "I need you to trust me one final time." Captain Dejo studied her face. "What are you planning?" "I am going to end this war, or die trying." Before anyone could stop her, Hana started walking down the hill toward the valley floor. She held her hands up, showing she was unarmed. Behind her, she heard Junho calling her name. Both armies watched as she descended. Weapons tracked her movement. She could feel 1,000 sights aimed at her back. One nervous soldier, one wrong move, and she would be dead before she hit the ground. She reached the valley floor and walked toward her mother's position. The royal guards moved to intercept her, but Empress Nari held up a hand, stopping them. Mother and daughter faced each other across 10 meters of scarred earth. "Hana," her mother's voice was cold. "You have embarrassed the Empire by allowing yourself to be captured, but you are still my daughter. Come, we will return home and say no more about this incident. No more about the humans who saved my life. No more about the kindness they showed me when they could have let me die. They are the enemy. They are people just like us. They love, they fear, they hope. I have lived among them. I have seen their honor, and I have seen the lies our empire told to justify this war." Empress Nari's face remained impassive, but her bioluminescent markings flickered with anger. "You dare speak to me of lies? I am your empress. I am your mother. You are a leader who started a war because you feared human expansion. You demanded they surrender half their colonies. Not because they did anything wrong, but because their success threatened our dominance. I have read their history. I have heard their stories. We are the aggressors. Mother, we are the ones in the wrong." The words echoed across the battlefield. Both armies heard every syllable. Hana saw shock on Velrian faces, hope on human ones. A new figure emerged from the human lines. Junho, walking calmly toward her despite the danger. He stopped beside Hana, facing the Empress of the Velrian Empire without fear. "Your daughter is the bravest person I have ever met," he said clearly. "She gave up everything to stand for what is right. She deserves better than a mother who would drag her back into a war built on lies. Human, you will be silent." Empress Nari's voice cracked like thunder. "My guards will tear you apart for such disrespect. Then they will prove exactly what Hana said about your empire, that it rules through fear and violence, not justice and truth." More figures appeared. Captain Daejo Minho limping on his wounded leg. Young Juju with his rifle held low. The entire group of survivors standing together, human and side by side. "These people are my friends," Hana said. "They are my family now, and I will not abandon them." Empress Nari's composure finally cracked. "You would choose these animals over your own blood. I choose truth over comfortable lies. I choose peace over endless war. And yes, I choose friends who show me honor, over family who demands blind obedience. Then you are no daughter of mine." The Empress's voice was like ice. "I hereby strip you of your title, your name, your place in the royal line. You are nothing, you are no one. You are exile and traitor, to be killed on sight by any loyal Velrian." The words should have hurt. They should have broken something inside Hana. But instead, she felt free. The weight of the crown, the burden of her title, the chains of her old life, all fell away. She was no longer Princess Hana. She was just Hana, and that was enough. "I accept your judgment," Hana said calmly. She reached up and removed the memorial crystal containing her brother's blood. For a moment, she held it tight, saying a silent goodbye. Then she gently placed it on the ground between them. "Tell my brother I am sorry I cannot visit his grave, but I think he would understand my choice. He always believed in doing what was right, no matter the cost." She turned away from her mother, from the Empire, from everything she had known. She walked back to Junho and the others. The human medic took her hand without hesitation, squeezing gently. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. Colonel Suntong's voice boomed across the valley. "Empress Nari, your daughter has just exposed the truth about this war to both our armies. She has shown more courage than any warrior. I propose an immediate ceasefire and peace negotiations. Let us end this madness." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, Empress Nari turned and walked back to her transport. Before entering, she looked back one final time at the daughter she had lost. "You will regret this choice," she said. "Perhaps," Hana replied, "but I will regret it with my honor intact." The Empress's transport lifted off and disappeared into the clouds. The Velrian forces, confused and uncertain, held their positions but did not fire. The human forces did the same. A strange quiet fell over the battlefield. Captain Daejo approached with Colonel Sunong. The colonel looked at Hana with respect. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Maybe both. Probably both, Hana agreed, finding she could still smile. "Will you honor your offer of ceasefire? I will recommend it to command after what just happened. I think they'll listen. You've given both sides something to think about." He paused. "What will you do now? You can't return to your people. Then I will stay here and work for peace. I know Velrian military strategies, supply lines, communication codes. I can help end this war faster, save lives on both sides. You'll be seen as a traitor by your people, probably by some of mine too. I know, but I would rather be a living traitor than a dead princess with blood on my conscience." Over the following days, a ceasefire was negotiated. Not a complete peace, not yet, but a cessation of active fighting. While both sides talked, Hana shared everything she knew, helping human forces anticipate Velrian strategies while also advising on diplomatic approaches that might sway moderate voices in the Empire. She worked alongside Junho in refugee camps, treating wounded from both species. She spoke at peace rallies, telling her story again and again. Some people called her a hero, others called her a traitor and a fool. She ignored both labels and kept working. 3 months after the confrontation, Junho found her on a hill overlooking a refugee settlement. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that would have been beautiful if not for the distant sound of artillery fire. The war continued in some sectors, despite the ceasefire elsewhere. "Thinking about home?" he asked, sitting beside her. "Thinking about what home means," Hana replied. "I used to think home was a place, a planet, a palace, a position. But I was wrong. Home is choosing to stand for something bigger than yourself. Home is the people who stand beside you when everything else falls away." She looked at Junho, this human who had shown her a different path. His kindness had cracked her certainty. His courage had helped her find her own. He was not of her species, not of her world, but he felt more like family than anyone she had left behind. "Home is here," she said softly. "With you, with all of you, building something better than what came before." Junho smiled and took her hand. "It won't be easy. The war isn't over. There are people on both sides who will never accept peace. I know, but we have to try. My brother used to say that the stars are vast enough for everyone. We just have to be brave enough to share them." And they sat together as the sun disappeared and the stars emerged one by one, filling the sky with light. Somewhere out there, fleets still fought. Somewhere out there, people still died in a war started by fear and sustained by lies. But here on this hill, a Velrian and a human sat in peace. Proof that another way was possible. Hana had lost everything, her title, her family, her place in the world. But she had gained something far more precious. She had gained the truth. She had gained friends who valued her for who she was, not what she represented. And she had gained a purpose worth fighting for. The alien princess who once loathed humans had found her heart captured not by conquest, but by compassion. And that, she thought, was the most human thing of both.